It's a Tuesday in the summer lull of Formula One. There's no on-track action to really get into, but there's plenty of news to be discussed around the paddock, as today we're talking about Red Bull seeing negatives as compliments, and of course there is that ruling on Sebastian Vettel's disqualification at the Hungaroring 10 days ago. Let's dive into it all. Before we do though, remember to hit that subscribe button down below to stay up to date with everything we do here at GPFans. Now, let's get into the news this Tuesday. Let's start with the news that Aston Martin fans have been wanting to hear, but probably not wanting to hear this, as the team has been unsuccessful in their bid to have Sebastian Vettel's disqualification from the Hungarian Grand Prix reviewed. The German driver finished second at the Hungaroring 9 days ago, just behind race winner Esteban Ocon. But when only 0.3 litres of fuel could be taken from his AMR 21, far less than the sample required 1 litre by the FIA, Vettel was disqualified, handing second place to Lewis Hamilton and third to Ferrari's Carlos Sainz. The team cited a lift fuel pump issue as a reason for this. Alongside the team's petition for a right to review, Aston Martin also initiated an appeal against their driver's disqualification. Now, in order for the FIA to consider the review, Aston Martin has to provide evidence that a significant and relevant new element is discovered which was unavailable to the parties seeking the review at the time of the decision concerned. You may remember that sentence from the review of the incident at Silverstone between Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. Now, on Monday this week, the FIA ruled that although new evidence was presented, it was inadmissible. The decision document states, it concludes that there was a fuel system failure in car 5, Sebastian Vettel's. As a result of the loss of fuel cell pressure, the air pump in the fuel cell activated a maximum output. By pumping air through the fuel cell, a significant amount of fuel was inadvertently discharged from the fuel cell of car 5. As a result of that, it was only possible to obtain a 0.3 litre sample of fuel, significantly less than the volume that was expected to have remained. The document goes on to mention that according to their, Aston Martin's, calculations using the fuel flow meter and taking into account the amount filled into car 5 before the race, there should have been 1.44 litres in the tank. However, as Aston Martin now explain, an analysis of various data carried out after August 1st, 2021 showed that there was actually less than 1 litre remaining at the end of the race, due to an initially unnoticed malfunction in the fuel system. The document goes on to note that the question of what caused the situation was left out of consideration. Article 6.6 in its entirety and Article 6.62 of the technical regulations unequivocally calls for a remaining amount of 1 litre and does not allow any exceptions under which circumstances or for what reasons it could be dispensed with. Therefore, for the assessment of whether or not the 1 litre requirement was broken, it does not make a difference why there was less than 1 litre. Basically, the FIA is saying it doesn't matter why Vettel's Aston Martin was low on fuel come the end of the Hungarian Grand Prix, and the system failure is on the responsibility of the team and not a valid excuse for why there wasn't 1 litre of fuel left in the car. Aston Martin's system failed, they came up short on providing a fuel sample, and they are now paying the price for that failure. Speaking about the decision, team principal Otmar Szafnauer said, Sebastian drove brilliantly in Hungary, and we are pleased to have been given the opportunity to show significant new evidence that we discovered after the race. We felt that the evidence we presented was relevant and demonstrated to the FIA that we should have been reinstated following the disqualification. Unfortunately, the FIA took a different view, and despite the fact that the accuracy of our evidence was not contested, Sebastian's disqualification has been upheld on the basis that the new evidence was not deemed relevant. That is disappointing, and we will now consider our position in respect of the full appeal process. So basically, this story could rumble on a little longer than this summer. Elsewhere, Red Bull Chief Technical Director Adrian Newey has suggested the complaints Mercedes made about the now obsolete Flexi-wings earlier this year were a compliment to Red Bull. Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes drew attention to the apparent flexible rear wings of their title rivals after the Spanish Grand Prix, despite FIA tests ensuring conformity with the regulations. After the complaints, the FIA introduced stricter tests for the component, causing a number of teams to redevelop and redesign the rear wings of their car to once again conform with the new testing. Speaking to the Talking Bull podcast, Newey said, "Top teams are only interested in what their main rivals are doing. As you say, with the recent flexible rear wing, we were not the only team exploiting that. Alpha and I think one other team, I can't remember which," he added. That in its own, when Mercedes started making noise about it, they weren't worried about what Alpha was doing, they were worried about whether we were getting benefit from it. Yes, in a way you can take it as a compliment. We have been there before in the last championship battles with Ferrari back in the sort of 2012 era, when there were all sorts of rows over bodywork flexibility. Then it was more aimed at the front wing. It is natural, we will equally be taking a careful eye at what Mercedes are doing and see if there is anything that they are doing that we can take a pop at. It is natural. I never like the war analogy, but it is a decent analogy. The war analogy, you look at every aspect you can to improve your competitive position. So Adrian Newey happy to take the flexible rear wings now on the chin and seeing a positive out of the negative from earlier this year. It doesn't seem like there's going to be a positive for Aston Martin. Do you sympathise and feel sorry with either them or Sebastian Vettel after the ruling over his disqualification in Hungary? Of course, that has implications on the F1 title battle as well. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Keep an eye as well this summer on what's happening with Mick Schumacher across our GPFans network, as he looks like a potential driver for Ferrari next season. There's more to be discussed on that in the next few weeks or so. And to follow us as well at GPFans Global, that's at GPFans Global on Instagram and Twitter. Hit the subscribe button as well, and we'll be back later on in the week with more news from the world of Formula 1.